Hey, welcome back to the channel, and today we're comparing an iPhone 6s Plus to a russet potato. So here we go. So full disclosure on this, we're going to be comparing a 2015 iPhone 6s Plus to a 2018 potato. Now that might not seem very fair, but honestly the potato hasn't seen much of a hardware upgrade since it was released in about 8000 BC, so it's still a pretty fair comparison. So this review is broken down into a few different categories. We have specs, the build, the camera, the connectivity, apps and games, and price. So we're going to compare both devices in each category and then see who comes out a winner for each category and who's a winner at the end. So let's jump right into the specs. All right, so first let's talk about the potato. The potato comes with a pre-installed skin that adds some texture and adds a little bit of grip and a little bit of protection, but it's not going to be any major drop protection or anything. The internals are very solid with no moving parts whatsoever. The contours of the potato are really nice and it feels really good in the hand. It has a really solid feel, and the curved texture of the potato makes it fit right inside the palm of your hand. So moving on to the iPhone, we have some more detailed specs. The iPhone has a 5.5-inch Retina HD, that's an IPS display with 3D touch. It's a resolution of 1920 by 1080. It's got the 64-bit A9 processor with embedded M9 Motion coprocessor, 2 gigs of RAM, and it's about 6.77 ounces. So for this category, the pre-installed skin on the potato is a nice touch, but the advanced specs of the iPhone 6s Plus really mashes the potato in this category. So jumping into the build of the devices, looking at the potato first, it has a very nice unibody design. There's absolutely no seams and it looks like it's made for one solid piece. On the top, front, and back, there's absolutely nothing. There's no ports of any kind, except for one spot that looks like it might be a camera lens, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit here. For the iPhone, there's nothing on the top for that device either, but along the left side, we have the mute button as well as the volume up and down. On the right side is the power button and the SIM tray. The bottom is the 3.5mm headphone jack, the microphone, Thunderbolt port, and speaker. On the front of the device is the 5-megapixel selfie camera, as well as the physical home button at the bottom that has fingerprint reader that supports Touch ID. In terms of aesthetics, I gotta give this one to the potato. It just peels ahead of the Apple. The unibody design and the curvature of the case, it fits so nicely in the hand that it's just the clear winner in this category. So moving on to the camera, for the potato, this was a glaring omission from this device. There's absolutely no camera capabilities. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's something that looks like it might be a camera lens on it, but that's actually just a spot on the case. And I almost feel like they're deceiving us by putting a fake lens on there when the device has absolutely no camera capabilities whatsoever. The iPhone, on the other hand, has that front-facing selfie camera. It shoots at 720p and has an aperture of f2.2. It shoots pretty good, but nothing crazy good, but it's enough for selfies and video chatting. The rear camera is also a f2.2 aperture, but it shoots in 4K at 30 frames per second, and you can also shoot slow motion at 1080p at 120 frames per second or 720p at 240 frames per second. The rear camera supports optical image stabilization, and the pictures and the video are still really good on this camera, even by today's standards. Even in low light, the colors are very crisp, everything's very clear and sharp. So I gotta give this one to the iPhone. It completely fries the potato in this category. The fact that they have that spot on the potato that looks like a camera really kind of bothers me. I wish they had just left it off and instead of trying to trick us into thinking that it has actual camera capabilities. Moving on to connectivity. Now for the potato, there's absolutely no ports like I mentioned before, but it's a soft enough case that you can actually insert any kind of cable that you want, even headphones, but there's really no capability, so you don't know if the device is charging, and there's no way to start your music or even load music on the device. For the connectivity on the iPhone, we have 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, NFC, a Lightning connector, and that 3.5mm headphone jack. So the iPhone, again, is the clear winner in this category. It absolutely bakes the potato. Now the Potato has the ability to use any kind of cable, which is nice, but the fact that there's no indicators or internal storage in this device kind of makes that useless. So moving on to the apps and games. For the Potato, there's absolutely no way to load apps or games onto this device, and I haven't been able to find any that are preloaded. The device does come pre-configured for one game called Hot Potato. This is a high-intensity survival game, but it's multiplayer, but local multiplayer only. There's no single player campaign, and you can't play it multiplayer online. But if you have a bunch of friends in the same area, it's actually a pretty intense and fun game. The iPhone, on the other hand, has access to all the apps and games that are in the App Store. It supports even the new stuff because the operating system that's on this device as of the time of this video, it supports all the way up to 11.3, which is the newest one. And I've yet to find any app or game that didn't perform great on this device. For something like PUBG, you might have to set the graphics down to medium instead of high, but it still runs great and looks great, and it's very playable. So although Hot Potato is a really fun game, the limitations set on it where it's only local multiplayer is a little too limiting for my taste. So in this category, the iPhone really scallops the Potato. Now moving on to the price, this is where there is a huge discrepancy. The Potato, you can buy an individual potato for about 39 cents, or you can buy a whole 5-pound bag for about $2. The iPhone, on the other hand, if you buy it new from Apple, which I do not recommend, would cost you $550 US for the 32 gigabyte version or $650 US for the 128 gigabyte version. The reason why I say I wouldn't recommend that buying it from Apple new is because you can buy it used or refurbished for about $200 to $400. If you look on something like Swappa or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, you can find a really good condition used one for significantly less than you would buy it new for directly from Apple. So for price, the clear winner is the Potato. It really juices the Apple in this category. So the clear winner in this comparison is the iPhone. The Potato does win in terms of aesthetics and price, but the limitations of not being able to get any feedback when you plug cables in, no clear way to load apps or games onto the device, and the limitations around Hot Potato are a little bit too much. The unibody device is really nice, and you can't beat the price. But the functionality of the iPhone, even in today's market with, you know, the flagship phones that are out now, it still does a really good job. It takes great pictures. It's still reasonably fast. The battery life is great, and I think you can still get the battery replaced at Apple at a discounted rate if you need to. The new version of the OS removes the throttling limitation, so you can turn that off for your older devices, and I can still recommend buying this. Again, I would buy it used. I wouldn't buy it new from Apple because that $550 or $650 price is a little too much. If you just want something that's a little easier to use, feels good in the hand, and you don't care that it's that one game, then, you know, for 39 cents, a Potato is something you can't beat. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Please leave a comment below and let me know if you have a Potato or an iPhone 6s Plus currently and what you think of those devices. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Hit that thumbs up if you liked the video, and come see me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I love meeting new people on there and chatting with them, and I'll see you in the next video.